everyone, it's Marisa from BumblebeeApothecary.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make some delicious pork ribs in the oven. This recipe uses an oven, and for the pork ribs, these can be either country style ribs or baby back ribs. Either one will work great. The first thing that I'm doing is to preheat my oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, I'm going to be taking my ribs and I'm going to be putting them fattier side up in my Dutch oven. This can be a Dutch oven or it can be a larger rectangular roasting pan, whatever you have that's big enough to fit them all easily. And in case you were wondering, the cut that I have here today is country style ribs. Next, I'm going to salt and pepper my ribs using my nice mineral salt. I have Celtic sea salt in there today. I like that one, and I like Baja Gold. Anything that's got plenty of minerals in it is going to be good. So salt and pepper, and then I'm going to add my lid. If you are using a bigger roasting pan or something that doesn't have a lid, you can use foil. I usually try to avoid using foil. If I ever happen to use it, I just make sure it does not ever touch the food. But that's one of the things I love about this big thing here, is that it's got a nice lid on it. So I'm going to stick this into my 300 degree Fahrenheit oven for 2 to 2.5 hours. What you want to look for is for the meat to start to become tender. If they still feel like they're really tough, and this will especially be the case with the country style ribs, it can tend to be the case more with them. You just want to make sure that they go in the oven long enough that they're starting to be tender, so 2 to 3 hours. Sometime during that cook time, I like to go ahead and put my barbecue sauce together. Now, I do have another barbecue sauce recipe already up on my YouTube channel. I'll have that link down below if you'd like to check that out. And that recipe would be perfect for this, but the way I cook, where I'm always kind of experimenting and trying to improve and, you know, just having fun with it, I tend to kind of morph things, and yeah, so this is the recipe that I'm currently using for barbecue sauce. It's similar in many ways to the other one, but that's just kind of where I'm at now. So definitely check out the other recipe if you would like. Otherwise, I'm going to show you what I have going right now. So for the base, I either use tomato sauce or tomato paste. If you're on GAPS, you're most likely going to want to stick with tomato paste. It's easier to find tomato paste that is GAPS compliant and in glass jars and all of that. So that's what I would recommend. I only have on hand 1 can of tomato sauce and 1 can of tomato paste. So that's what I'm using today. So you could use all tomato sauce, you could use all tomato paste, or a combination like I'm doing. Whatever you have on hand will work. If you're using all tomato paste, you may need to add a little bit of water to get it to be a little bit of a thinner consistency, but you just have to see once it's all mixed up whether that's necessary or not. So I'm going to go ahead and just add these to my pitcher here. And then I like to add something for a little bit of a sweet taste. Something that I've really been liking lately for barbecue sauce is date paste. This is perfectly GAPS compliant on full GAPS. And I really like it because it's perfectly fine to heat, whereas raw honey, you can heat it, but you do lose benefits. So I don't like to use, you know, expensive raw honey in things that I'm going to heat. So date paste or date syrup is something that I've really been liking. So you could also, if you're not on GAPS, you could use something like Rapadura or something like that. I don't know about maple syrup, I've never tried that, but I've really been liking this. So I'm going to go ahead and add around probably 1/3 of a cup, I think is what I've been doing. I just kind of go by feel when I measure stuff, but I will try to give you guys measurements. And then also, like all the rest of my recipes, I'm working as fast as I can to try to get these up on my website too, so that you can have them over there, because I know that it's really nice to be able to have just a good printable version and just a quick recipe all in one place. Next, I like to add some paprika. I'm gonna add, I think, about a tablespoon. And next I'm gonna add some mustard powder. That's what I prefer. If you don't have mustard powder or ground mustard, you can also do some Dijon mustard or even regular yellow mustard will work. I'm gonna add probably about a tablespoon again of that. And then some coriander seed, probably about a good teaspoon or so. Oh, and for the tomato paste or tomato sauce portion, I had, before I added everything else, probably about 2 cups. And then I'm going to add probably about a good teaspoon of oregano, and then also some salt to taste. Salt and pepper always to taste. I don't know, maybe probably a good teaspoon of salt. They do have salt and pepper on them already. The ribs do, so I don't want to do too much, but you also want to make sure you have enough of that good flavor coming through. And then a little sprinkle of pepper, maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. And then I'm also going to add some onion powder. I'm going to add probably a good, at least a tablespoon, maybe more like 2 tablespoons of this. You want a lot of that coming through. And then some garlic powder as well. Probably about a tablespoon or so, if not a little more of that. And then this is what I love about this kind of cooking is you just kind of experiment and you try things. The more you do it, the more you develop kind of a feel for things and how much you want to add based on what you've liked in the past. And so it's just really fun. So that's why I like coming up with my own recipes and just creating stuff this way. So I'm just going to mix all of that together, and I am doing this right after I stuck the ribs in the oven for 2 to 3 hours. And so this is going to be really nice. It's going to let all of this be able to sit and really blend together and end up tasting even better in the end. Although you can just mix it up right before using it too, that works. No need to stress, of course. One more thing I'm going to add to this is a splash of apple cider vinegar, probably 1/4 cup, and then just mix everything together. And then, since I have a bit of time left for those ribs that are in the oven, actually, you know what I'm going to do? This actually just occurred to me. So this is something that I really like to do a lot when I remember in time. And I do talk about it in my other barbecue sauce recipe that I have up on my channel. But what I like to do anytime that I can is to use fermentation. So I have this little glass of, it's actually pickle brine. You could use sauerkraut brine or any liquid from a fermented vegetable, or it could be whey from cultured dairy. And I'm just going to go ahead and add that. And that is going to add just an extra little probiotic boost. And yes, we will be heating this, so anything that's alive will be destroyed. But anything that's fermented, even if the live bacteria don't make it to you, is going to be easier to digest, because fermentation breaks things down, makes it easier to digest. Also adds just a really nice extra level of flavor there. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm actually just going to let this sit on my counter until I need it. So that is my sauce. All right, so as far as this ribs recipe, the thing that I love about it is it's another really simple, easy, fast recipe to throw together. Literally all you're doing is sticking your ribs in the oven with some salt and pepper, whipping up this sauce. You saw how fast that was to toss together. You know, if you looked at the grocery store, how many sketchy ingredients, even on the organic and the natural barbecue sauces there's smoke flavor and so much sweetener and all this kind of stuff. It is so easy, I'm telling you, to just make it yourself, and you avoid all that, and it tastes amazing. So anyway, like I was saying, super easy recipe. It's just like toss it in there and forget it. You whip up this when you can, and then the next thing that we're going to be doing is just after that 2 to 3 hours is up, we're going to be pulling them out, adding the sauce, sticking them back in at a lower temperature, 275 degrees Fahrenheit, and then letting them go for about another hour, hour and a half. You could even go as far as 2 hours, probably not most of the time, but you know, if you had to, just depending on how your day was going, you could. And then they're going to be ready. So super easy. So I'll be back, and I'm going to show you the next step as soon as these ribs are ready. Okay, we are ready to pull these ribs out of the oven, add the sauce, and go on to the next step. So while I'm here working with the oven, I'm going to go ahead and lower my temperature down to 275. 275 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we have our beautiful barbecue sauce that's been sitting there fermenting. Now, I do not get rid of the fat that has rendered down from these ribs. I just leave it because I feel like it really adds to the finished dish. And you know, we like fat. We love animal fat. It's so important in so many ways. And these ribs are from really healthy, free-range pigs from a friend of ours that we get our pork from. And so that's going to be good fat to have. So I'm going to go ahead and just pour this barbecue sauce all over these. And then the next step, when they're in the oven at this a little bit lower temperature, they are going to be uncovered. And I find that not having a lid in there helps to kind of evaporate extra liquid so that the end sauce that's going to be around them is not overly watery. So it's just a nice mixture of the rendered fat that's kind of dripped down and then the sauce. It's so delicious. So if you're looking at this thinking that's a lot of liquid, don't worry, it cooks down very nicely when it's in the oven with no lid. Alright, so then these are going back into the oven at 275, no lid, and usually about an hour is how long this takes. I have quite a bit of meat in here, so I may have them in there more like an hour and a half. If you have very small pieces of meat, small ribs, then you might want to start checking on it after about half an hour. What you want to look for at this point is very tender meat that's pretty much just falling off the bone. That's when you know they're ready. So back into the oven. And after about an hour, since I do have pretty big chunks of meat in there, I'm going to start checking on them and just see how tender they are. And once they're super tender, falling off the bone, I'm gonna pull them out, let them sit for 5 minutes or so, and they're ready to serve and enjoy. So I will show you that step once we are ready. All right, so here it is out of the oven. You can see super tender. They just fall right apart. It wants to just come right off the bone. So we'll just serve these. I'll dish them up in a second so you can see. We just serve them on a plate. We just pick them up and eat all the yummy meat with the sauce on it off the bone. So good. Yes, you will. And then something that I like to make to go alongside these is a coleslaw. And since I don't really like eating a lot of raw cabbage, just because that might not always be the best for thyroid health all the time, I like to do a coleslaw with shredded carrots. So I just shredded my carrots in my food processor, and then I whipped up a really easy coleslaw dressing. So I used mayonnaise, a little bit of honey, some celery seeds, a little sprinkle of salt and pepper, splash of apple cider vinegar, and just whipped that all up together and poured it on, and then tossed it with the shredded carrots to coat. So that is going to be our dinner tonight. Let's get some of this dished up onto a plate so you can see what it looks like. Alright, I really hope that you enjoyed seeing how I like to make barbecue pork ribs. I hope that you give this recipe a try. If you do, be sure and let me know how you like it. Be sure and check out that description box for links to free ebooks and other goodies. I will have this written recipe up on my website as soon as I can, and as soon as I do, I will have the link to that down below as well. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody else you think would enjoy it, and if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out new videos every week on nourishing recipes and natural living. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.